Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namah Shri Shankarananda Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padambu Janmane Guru Padambu Janmane Savilasa Mahamoha Savilasa Mahamoha Graha Grasaika Karmane Graha Grasaika Karmane. Subject matter of discussion is Paroksha Jnanam and Aparoksha Jnanam. Paroksha Jnanam, indirect knowledge or immediate knowledge. Aparoksha Jnanam, direct or immediate knowledge. For example, when you infer the presence of fire from the smoke, so you perceive the smoke and infer the presence of fire, that knowledge of fire is Paroksha Jnanam or indirect knowledge, because you have not seen the fire by your own eyes, but you know there is fire, so it is valid knowledge. So Paroksha Jnanam or indirect knowledge can also be valid, but it is not direct knowledge or immediate knowledge, because you have not perceived the fire by your own eyes. So this is valid indirect knowledge, and when you go to that place and see the fire for your own self, then that knowledge becomes Aparoksha Jnanam or immediate knowledge. So two forms of knowledge. Both can be valid. Similarly also with reference to Brahma, there is Paroksha Jnanam and Aparoksha Jnanam. What is Paroksha Jnanam or indirect knowledge of Brahma? That Brahma is. How does that knowledge take place? By listening to the scriptures. So by listening to the scriptures, we do come to know that there is Brahma, which is Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. Brahma is truth, is awareness, is limitless, is changeless, Nitya, Shuddha, Buddha, Mukta. It is changeless, free from limitation of time. It is pure. It is of the nature of knowledge. It is freedom. So it is free from limitations, free from bondage. Thus we know by listening to the scriptures. So we say that Brahma is, and Brahma is such and such. This knowledge is called Paroksha Jnanam or indirect knowledge of Brahma. What is the Paroksha Jnanam? When that very Brahman is known as the self. Just as when the fire becomes the object of my own perception, then alone that becomes the immediate knowledge. So also when Brahma becomes the object of my perception. How can Brahma become object of perception? Meaning Brahma becomes the object of my immediate knowledge. And there is only one way that Brahman, which is limitless, can become the object of my immediate knowledge, and that is when it is known as a self. Because myself is the object of my immediate knowledge, even today also. Today also self or Atma is known immediately, intimately, aparokshata. Because it is self-revealing and therefore no effort is needed. There is no need even to operate a pramanam or a means of knowledge to know the self. And when Brahman is known as self, then alone it is known immediately. So that Brahma is limitless, that it is non-dual, that it is substratum of the whole creation. And all of this, we know Brahman as something is. But when Brahma I am, meaning when that Brahman is known as the very self, that knowledge is called Aparoksha Jnanam. So there is a distance between the Paroksha Jnanam and Aparoksha Jnanam. But when you say that the scriptures are the means for knowledge of Brahma, the statements of the scriptures are the means of knowledge, they are called pramanam. The Upanishad Vakya or the statements of Upanishad are the pramanam, the valid means of knowledge for Brahman. Then how come in spite of listening to the scriptures, the immediate knowledge does not take place? You say that when the pramana, the means of knowledge is there, operated, and the object to be known is also there, then the knowledge takes place without your effort. Just as a flower is in front of me and my eyes are open, the knowledge of the flower takes place doesn't require any effort or will on my part. And I don't even have a choice in that knowledge, because whether I want it or not, knowledge takes place. When vastu, meaning the object to be known, and pramanam, the means of knowledge, when both these are there, the knowledge takes place. Similarly here also, the vastu is Atma, the self, which is Brahman, that is very much there. And pramanam, the means of knowledge, namely Vedanta, that also is there. Then how come the immediate knowledge does not take place? If vastu and pramanam, or the object and means of knowledge, these are the only two things required for the knowledge to take place, then both of them are there. Atma, the self, is very much there, and it is Brahman, whether I know it or not. And the words of the Upanishad very clearly reveal, Tattvamasi, that thou art. Then how come knowledge or immediate knowledge does not take place? So said that there is an obstacle here. Dehadhyatmatva vibhrantu jagratyam nahatatpavan brahmatmatvena vijnadam kshamade mandadhitvatah. A person mandadhitvatah, on account of a person being of dull intellect. What do you mean by dull intellect? Dull not in the sense of sharpness of intellect. One may be able to understand the grammar very well, the arguments and logic and everything very well. So that one may be very sharp, and still that intellect would be called dull with reference to knowledge of Brahman, when there is an obstacle called dehadhyatmatva vibhrantihi. When vibhranti, of the delusion of the nature of dehata buddhi, taking the body, taking the mind, etc. to be a self, when that bhranti is there. So in case of knowledge of Brahman, there is this extra additional obstacle. In case of knowledge of flower, or a book, or a pot, or some other object, the only thing that separates me from that is the ignorance. And when the veil of ignorance is removed by the pramana means of knowledge, then the knowledge takes place. In case of Brahma, however, there is an additional obstacle. And what is it? That is what we call the dehatmadhi, or the notion or the conclusion on my part that I am the body. In case of flower, I don't have any conclusion, and therefore my mind is open, and therefore I see the flower as it is. In case of Atma, or the self, on the other hand, I have various conclusions that I am so and so. And these conclusions, which are notional, which is called bhrama, or the delusion, that is the obstacle to aparoksha jnanam, or immediate knowledge. And therefore, dehadhyatmatva vibhrantu jagratyam. As long as this vibhranti, or this delusion of the nature of taking the body, etc. to be self is there, na hathatpuvan brahmatmatvena vijnatam kshamate. So long one is not able to immediately know Brahma as a self. Why is it so? Mandadhitvatah. Because the intellect is dulled, or the intellect is not able to think clearly. The emotional problems, we call it, or habitual problems. Habitually, so there is this ahankar, or the ego, which ego is nothing but the bunch of conclusions of identification of the body with the mind. And that is the obstacle. And that's what prevents me from seeing myself as I am. And therefore, brahmatmaikatva aparoksha jnana virodhinaha dehendriyadishu atmatva brahmasya vichara nivartyasya sadbhavat nivritte vichara apekshate. In this case, therefore, it is necessary to perform an inquiry or deliberate upon the meaning of the word tvam, the meaning of the word I. What exactly is meant by I? What exactly is meant by Ishvara, or the Lord? And we have to, what is required is vichara or viveka, a discrimination is required. In this case, discrimination is required. We require a mind which is able to discriminate between the self and the non-self. It is one thing to say that, yes, I am limitless. To understand that logically, that limitless I have to be. How can I be limited? It is praptasya prapta. His attainment already attained, and I am seeking freedom, and freedom therefore is my nature. The happiness I am seeking is limitless happiness, and therefore that has to be my nature. There is nothing in the creation that can really give me the happiness that I am seeking. And still now and then I do experience moments of happiness. Where does it come from? It comes from the self. And thus logically we can see all of this. that the self must be of the nature of happiness, must be freedom, must be free from limitation. But to see the self as limitless, as free, as of the nature of happiness is another thing. So to know it in general, that yes, the self is free and self is limitless, is what we would call paroksha jnanam or indirect knowledge. And to see that fact. And what is the obstacle in seeing that fact? This ego, the ahankara, which is, as we said, nothing but the identification with the non-self, so that the hatma buddhi, taking the body, etc., to be I. So every time I want to see that ego is limitless. When I even proclaim the self to be limitless, I always am trying to see that ego as limitless, as free, etc. And there is all the time this frustration. So it is that it's not being able to clearly discriminate between the self and the non-self. Not being able to discriminate between the subject and the object. And thus this lumping together, like the iron and fire, and so also the self and the non-self are lumped together. And when I use the pronoun I, there is not only I that is pure awareness, but along with that are also included the body and the mind and the intellect, the physical personality, emotional, intellectual personality also forms very much a part of this I. And unless I am able to separate them, it is not possible for me to appreciate the I clearly as it is. And so, in order that paroksha jnanam or indirect knowledge gets transformed into aparoksha or immediate knowledge, it is necessary to be able to discriminate between that I and non-I, the self and the non-self, and then it becomes aparoksha jnanam. So there is this further obstacle. Therefore, what is required is vichara, what is required is deliberation, or what vichara? A discriminative deliberation. That's why drishyate pragraya buddhya sukshmaya sukshmadarshibhi esha sarveshu bhuteshu godhotmana prakashate. The self is very much there, hidden in everyone, but it does not shine. It does not shine as it is, and therefore no one knows the self as it actually is. Then who would know? Drishyate agraya buddhya. One who is agra buddhi, meaning one who has ekagra or a focused mind. Sukshmaya buddhya, and one who has a subtle intellect. So what we require is subtlety of the intellect as well as a single-pointedness of focusing the intellect that one is able to see. So we have to cultivate that kind of a mind, that seeing mind. And that requires the practice of what we call constant deliberation or discrimination. So not only Shastra, but Vichara Yuktam Shastram. As you said, it is not merely that Upanishad or scripture is a pramanam, means of knowledge, Vichara Yuktam Shastram. An Upanishad or Shastra coupled with this discriminative inquiry that becomes a pramanam. So the words of scriptures may be there, but then the discrimination is not there, then those words do not become effective, meaning they do not create the aparoksha jnanam. Then the question is asked now, before the verse 22, Nanu tarhi dehendriyadi gocharasya dvaita brahmasya sadbhavat advitiya brahma gocharam paroksha jnanamapi na udiyat. Says, okay, if you say that this identification of the body or taking the body, etc., to be the self, that Brahma or that delusion is the obstacle to this immediate knowledge, then the body is always going to be there. Dehendriyadi, the body, the sense organs, the mind, intellect, and all the world that is perceived, that whole duality is always going to be there. Dvaita Brahmasya sadbhavat. That Dvaita Brahma, meaning that delusion in the form of duality, is very much present. Advitiya Brahma gocharam paroksha jnanapi naudiyat. Then, how would you say that even paroksha jnanam or indirect knowledge of non-duality, how will it take place? When what you experience and perceive is duality. You perceive your body, perceive your sense organs, perceive the world that is separate from you, and therefore this duality is the object of immediate perception. That is called aparoksha jnanam, or immediately perceived is duality. Then when you are perceiving this duality, or when duality is the object of your immediate knowledge or immediate perception, the question is, how would even the indirect knowledge of non-dual will take place? Will it not be that the perception of duality be an obstacle to the arising of the knowledge of the non-dual? Or even paroksha jnanam, how will it take place? Ityashankya. The answer is given. Aparoksha dvaita brahmasya paroksha advaita jnana avirodhitvat. Says, no, the perception of duality is not an obstacle to the arising of the knowledge of non-dual. So, even though you perceive the duality, even you quote a body and the mind, even then, and even though you may have the dehata buddhi meaning, even though you may have identification of the body, that Brahma may be there, and still the paroksha jnanam or indirect or general knowledge of the non-dual can still take place. Because the paroksha jnanam or the indirect knowledge of non-duality is not opposed to the existence or perception of duality. Because you can see, in spite of perceiving the duality, when you subject to scrutiny the nature of duality, then you can see that this duality as it is perceived is not real. Or when you think, then you can see that even though the body is very much there, definitely it cannot be the self, because I don't have this body, gross body in my dream, or I don't even have this mind in the deep sleep state. So this body, mind, etc. don't accompany me when I am in deep sleep. I am very much there, but they don't accompany me. That shows that they are not always faithful, or they can be dismissed, they can be negated, so they cannot be self. And therefore, shraddhaloho, as long as shraddhavatah pamsaha, as long as one is shraddha. So, the author is making a very important point as to what is required for paroksha jnanam or indirect knowledge to take place. This whole discussion arose because of these fundamental questions as to how upasana or meditation on Brahma is possible. Are you suggesting meditation upon Brahman that is known, or Brahman that is unknown? If Brahman is known as it is, then no meditation is required, because the purpose of meditation is to know. And if Brahman is unknown, then you cannot meditate, even if you want to meditate, because you cannot meditate on Timbuktu or some such thing, which is totally an unknown thing. Gagabugang, can you meditate on that? You cannot. So an unknown Brahman also cannot become the object of meditation. A known Brahman doesn't have to become the object of meditation because you already know it. So how is meditation on Brahma possible? Then it was said that knowledge of Brahman is twofold, paroksha jnanam and aparoksha jnanam. Indirect knowledge and direct knowledge. That Brahman is known, parokshataya, indirectly it is known, in a general way it is known. But it is unknown, aparokshataya, as the very self it is not known. And therefore, Brahman such as that, or Brahman known in that manner, can become the object of meditation. This is the point that was made. So therefore now the teacher is discussing, what are the obstacles? How come the aparoksha jnanam or immediate knowledge does not take place? In what manner the paroksha jnanam or indirect knowledge would take place? And what is the obstacle to the taking place of the aparoksha jnanam? So said that even though there is this perception of the duality, even though the body, mind, etc. are there and they perceive the duality, that duality is not opposed to the occurrence of the paroksha jnanam of non-dual. What you require is shraddha. Shraddha means a faith or trust. This we discussed at length in several texts, including the Vedanta Sara. Giving benefit of doubt. What shraddha is? Giving benefit of doubt to the scriptures and giving benefit of doubt to the teacher. So scripture and teacher is one unit actually, not two separate units. Giving them a benefit of doubt. Why do they need a benefit of doubt? Because very often what they say seems to contradict what we think to be true. Or what we have been thinking to be truth about our own self, or what we have been thinking to be truth about the world, etc., seems to be quite contrary to what the Upanishads reveal. And therefore, when someone tells me something that is contrary to my own present belief or conclusion, I would generally tend to dismiss it. The only thing that is said here is that you don't dismiss what we hear, we don't dismiss what we hear from the teacher, but then we don't accept it either, just because teacher says that, but at least we give the benefit of doubt. And we subject those statements to the scrutiny of our own reasoning, whether what they say is reasonable or not. And then if we discover that our own conclusions are not based on reason. Many conclusions that we have about our own self and about world and about God, etc., they have no basis of reason. Then we shall be able to see the fallacy of our own conclusions, be able to discard them, and thus we shall be able to learn. So Shraddha. Shraddhavatah pumsah shastrat paroksha jnanam utpadyate. And the illustration will be given. Said from the scriptures, a person who has Shraddha or the faith, paroksha jnanam utpadyate, that paroksha jnanam or the indirect knowledge can take place. That is said in verse 22. Brahmamatram suvijneyam, Brahmamatram suvijneyam, Shraddhalo shastradarshinaha, Shraddhalo shastradarshinaha, Aparokshadvaita buddhihi, Aparokshadvaita buddhihi, Parokshadvaita buddhyanute, Parokshadvaita buddhyanute. Brahmamatram suvijneyam Shraddhaloho shastradarshinaha. Shraddhaloho, one who possesses Shraddha. Shastradarshinaha, and one who has studied the scriptures from the teacher. Brahmamatram suvijneyam. It is easy to know Brahman. Meaning to have what we call paroksha jnanam, or a general knowledge and understanding about Brahma is not difficult. Because the teacher unfolds that and we understand. And since teacher is talking about our own selves and talking about our own life and talking about the experiences that we are having, Vedanta does not talk about some exotic experiences which we never had, or doesn't talk about things that is going to happen after death for which we have no verification. Vedanta only talks about what we are presently experiencing, what we presently are and what we presently see. And Vedanta just analyzes for us the nature of reality, analyzes for us the validity of the conclusions that we have, and makes us see the truth. Because truth is something we just to be now. That alone is called truth. Truth cannot be created, it doesn't have to be created, then it's not truth, or is not to be achieved or something. It has to be now and everywhere. So Vedanta only reveals the truth about the life that we encounter as it is. And so all that is necessary is to apply our mind to listening and to let our mind think in the manner in which the teacher unfolds the scriptures. That's all that is called for. And that requires Shraddha, that's all. Shraddha in the scriptures. And Shraddha in the teacher also, that there is no reason why he should mislead us and what not. And so all that is required is that we are available. Shraddha makes us available. If Shraddha is not there, a person is not available. That is true. So Shastradarshinaha, Shraddhaloho, one who has Shraddha and one who studies the scriptures. Brahmamatram suvijnayam, that paroksha jnanam or the indirect knowledge is suvijnayam, is easy to take place. Aparoksha dvaita buddhihi, that this perception of the duality that we have, the immediate perception of duality, does not in any way oppose the paroksha jnanam, does not oppose, in short, duality does not oppose non-duality. The point is that duality is not opposed to non-duality. Duality does not dismiss non-duality, or non-duality is not opposed to duality, it is in spite of duality. Brahman is non-dual in spite of the perception of duality, for the very simple reason that duality is not real. If duality were real and Brahman also were real, then there can be one thing at a time. But inasmuch as duality is not real, therefore, just as my shadow does not dismiss me, or I can be, my body is very much whether shadow is there or not, or several reflections of mine which may be seen in a mirror, in several mirrors, so there may be many reflections, they do not in any way contradict the oneness of myself, because the severalness is mithya or is apparent, and therefore this duality does not negate or contradict the non-duality. That's the reason why it's a matter of understanding. Non-dual is something to be understood. It is not that the duality is going to disappear. It is not that the wise man also does not perceive the duality. the duality is perceived, and in spite of that, it is understood as non-dual. It is perceived and understood as mithya. And so this we can see. How the scientists know? This is all paroksha jnana. All this knowledge of science is all indirect knowledge. To say there is an electron or a proton, nobody has seen those things. Nobody can see them. And therefore, right now we don't even know whether it's a particle or it's a wave or what it is, because it's a matter of conjecture from the data that you receive. And so paroksha jnanam can be there. In spite of the fact that you see this matter, which is all different, and still you know that matter is all one, all of that is nothing but energy. So that is all paroksha jnanam. It is all indirect knowledge, but valid knowledge. And so that kind of knowledge of Brahman can take place by study of the scriptures when the student has Shraddha. Why is this so? Because aparoksha dvaita buddhi, paroksha advaita buddhi anut. Anut means, so nud means to remove or to drive away. Anut means that which does not remove, which does not drive away. In short, paroksha advaita buddhi, that indirect knowledge of Advaita does not in any way contradict the direct or immediate knowledge of duality. Aparoksha Dvaita buddhi yatah paroksha Advaita buddhi anut atah brahma matram suvijñayami yojanam. So, inasmuch as the knowledge of Brahman is aparoksha, the perception of duality is not opposed to the knowledge of Brahman, therefore this perception of duality or existence of duality is not an obstacle. What is obstacle to paroksha jnanam? This or the indirect knowledge of Brahman, non-dual, what is the obstacle? The duality is not obstacle. Only Shraddha is the obstacle. Absence of Shraddha. Here, aparoksha brahmasya paroksha sammyajnana avirodhitve drishtantamaha. The teacher gives us an illustration as to how the aparoksha brahma, how the perceptual delusion, paroksha sammyajnana avarodhi, is not opposed to the paroksha jnanam or the indirect knowledge of reality. Drishtantamaha, an illustration is given that will make it clear. The verse 23. Aparoksha shila buddhihi, aparoksha shila buddhihi, na paroksheshatam nuded, न परोक्षेशतां नुदेत् प्रतिमादिषु विष्णुत्वे को वा विप्रतिपद्यते को वा विप्रतिपद्यते. Same again, these conventional examples are given here, and very much in the context of the Indian culture or the Hindu culture, or Vedic culture. Aparoksha shila buddhi, going back to the topic of worship, what you have is a shila or a stone in front of you. As we said yesterday, the shaligrama is a black round stone obtained from a particular place, and that is worshipped as Lord Vishnu. So they say that may you look upon this particular stone as Vishnu. So what you find in front of you is a stone, which is aparoksha jnanam. So knowledge of the stone is aparoksham or immediate. But then the way you look upon it is Ishvara, is God or as Lord. So paroksha ishatam nanuded. Meaning that immediate or direct perception of the stone is not in any way opposed to an indirect knowledge of God. That even though I see the stone, in my mind I think of God. That is not direct knowledge of God, because I have not seen Him by my eyes, but I know Him from the description of the scriptures and everything, and therefore that knowledge is not contradicted by the appearance or perception of a stone or an image or whatever that is in front of me. Pratimadishtu vishnutve ko va vipratipadyate. Ko va vipratipadyate. Who has any doubts or questions about worshipping this stone as Vishnu? He doesn't know that, but anyway. So he says, who has any doubts about worshipping the stone as Vishnu? Nobody has any doubts, And so, everybody is able to do that. Everybody is able to worship a stone as God. So what they see immediately is stone, which is a shila or a stone, and paroksha jnanam is of Vishnu. So where is the question of the problem? So there itself the question is asked. Kechana vipratipadyamanaha upalabhyante. He says, no, there are many people who are disbelievers. Many people don't accept this. How can you worship stone? There are charvakas, there are the materialists that we are discussing about in the morning. They don't accept any worship at all. They don't accept God. So those who don't accept God, they will not accept worship of God. Or if they don't accept God with form, then they will not accept, and so on. There can be many questions. So the many people actually question this whole method of worshipping God with the help of an image. Kechana vipratipadyamanaha upalabhyante. There are many people who have doubts and many people who debate about it. So how do you say that paroksha jnanam or indirect knowledge of God is not contradicted by the absence of direct knowledge of God? Says verse 24. Ashraddhalora vishwasah nodaharanam arhati shraddhaloreva sarvatra vaidikeshvadhikaratah. Ashraddha, it says, you are quoting the example of the one who does not have faith. So people who don't have faith, they are not able to worship a stone as Vishnu or as God. They don't have faith that you can worship stone and you can look upon a stone as God. Therefore they don't worship. So how do you say that? So in fact this knowledge of, this perception of stone itself becomes an obstacle to them, you see. How come one is not able to worship an idol or an image as God? Because this is stone. How can you see it as, how can this be worshipped as God? So in the case of those people, the very perception of stone becomes the obstacle to the knowledge of God. So how do you say that the perception of the duality cannot become an obstacle? It does become an obstacle. He says it becomes an obstacle in the case of the person who is not a believer. Shraddha, if you want to translate it as believer, I mean that's how they translate. So Yeltsin, he attended apparently some service in Russia, They are celebrating Christmas now, whatever, they must have a different date or something like that, I don't know. But there are pictures today that in the whole of Russia, they celebrated Christmas. Then nobody knew what was going on there because they have not celebrated Christmas in 70 years. And therefore, many people did not know what's going on here. And even when they were told, they did not understand what it was. So Yeltsin, the president, he went to one of the services and that picture. So he says, I am not a believer. But I respect the religious traditions. So he's not a believer. So there are many people who are not believers and therefore they won't believe in God, or even if they believe in God, they may not believe that God can be worshipped through stone and stuff like that. In fact, this Islam, they simply destroy. It must have been said in the Quran that you should not worship, and those fellows who worship these stones and idols, all of them are pagans or whatever they are. And so the only business, the first business they had when they came to India is to destroy all these shrines, because how can you worship? So not only they don't worship, but they cannot tolerate anybody who is worshipping. They think that by worshipping these stones, they will go to hell. So perhaps they want to redeem everybody, whatever it is. Anyway, they came to India and left and right, they destroyed very holy shrines. Anyway, so there are many disbelievers like this, and therefore the very perception of the stone becomes an obstacle to accepting it as God. He says, yes, that is so because there is an obstacle of lack of Shraddha. But for the one who is Shraddha or the faith, in what the scriptures say or the teachers say, there is no difficulty at all in worshipping an image as God. So they look at the image, so immediate knowledge is one of image, but then the indirect perception in the mind is one of God. And so the illustration that you gave of an Ashraddhalu or of a non-believer, that cannot be an example, cannot be cited as an example in this case because we are talking about people who have Shraddha. Ashraddhaloho avishwasaha udaharanam nahrati. So this avishwasa or lack of faith that a non-believer has, it cannot be cited here as an example. Shraddhaloho eva sarvatra vaidikeshu adhikaratha. Sarvatra everywhere, vaidikeshu, in all the Vedic rituals of worship and whatever the Vedas reveal with reference to that, sarvatra, everywhere, with reference to the Vedic tradition, Shraddhaloho eva adhikaraha. Only Shraddhalu or believer is qualified or alone is fit for that, or he alone will benefit and not in a Shraddhalu. And every faith, they are all called faith, Which faith you belong to? Christianity or Islam, or so Swami doesn't want to call Hinduism a Veda as faith, it's a darshan. Darshan means it's a vision. But anyway, the point is, everything is all based on faith, Shraddha, isn't it? To say that a certain prophet revealed all this truth, that is, God who has revealed the truth, to accept the book of, the holy book as a pramanam or as a valid means of knowledge is the first faith. To say that a given prophet was not an ordinary human being, that he was in direct communion with God, and that his words were nothing but the words of God, or that God directly revealed to him, and therefore this is all authentic. Who will accept that? Only one who has faith. Or to say that Christ was born of mother who was virgin, that the first thing right away it requires faith. And so all of this is all based on faith. There cannot be any, it's not logical in any way. And so also Vedic tradition also claims that Vedas are pramana, valid means of knowledge. Why do we say that? It is all revealed scriptures, not composed scriptures. Who says it is revealed? You say. After it's your word, isn't it? To say that Vedas are revealed scriptures and Rishis are the seers of mantras, I don't want to elaborate too much because I don't want to disturb the faith, etc. The point is that this is even to perform a ritual, because a ritual promises certain result, and therefore you perform a certain japa. They say that if you perform this mantra, you repeat this mantra X number of times, then a certain result will come, or a certain obstacle will go. So there is an obstacle here that some particular planet is not favorable, and therefore you repeat this mantra X number of times over a period of time, and that you will get the favor of that planet, the favor of that aspect of God. Now all of this requires purely faith and nothing else. So all this worship and everything is all based on faith. You go to any temple and they do all, you don't understand what he's doing anyway. You go to church, I don't understand. Go to synagogue, they have a different kind of a thing. We don't understand all these motions that they're going through. He does something, So a cup is brought and the wine is poured in there and there is bread. And then the priest does something there. And then it becomes the body of Christ and blood of Christ, what it is. So that's what it gets converted to. And all the devotees with great devotion they take it, and that is fine. The point is, it totally requires Shraddha, the faith, that the priest has some kind of power by which he converts this wine into blood and this bread into body, and that by partaking of that all your sins are, you become purified. So everywhere it is all based on faith. So I asked them, how do you take this wine? I said, Swamiji, we never give a thought to that. That's how we are brought up in our tradition. So we don't question these things. And we just do. And so all of this is based on faith. And similarly also that there is Brahman, which is limitless, is all based on faith, because unless it becomes an object of your own immediate knowledge, until then there is Shraddha. Shraddha or the faith is required in the case of that which is not the object of our immediate perception. Otherwise you don't require faith. To say that there is sun, there is moon, and there are stars, and there is earth, nobody requires faith because you directly perceive these things. But that the sun does not rotate and the earth rotates, now that requires, when the child is told that, you don't see the earth rotating, you see the sun rotating, and still to accept that the sun is standstill and the earth is rotating involves an element. That knowledge is what we call paroksha jnanam, or indirect knowledge, based on reasoning, etc. But that calls for faith, and then alone you will apply yourself to that reasoning, and then you'll be able to see that. Anyway, so you will know that faith is involved everywhere. People, particularly Western societies, Western person would have very hard time in accepting this business of Shraddha or faith, because there is a great emphasis given to proof, evidence, validity. And how do you prove? How do you prove that in this hall there are electromagnetic waves? transmitting music. How do you know that? There is no way that you can perceive that music through your ears, and so there is no way to verify that. So you require an appropriate instrument called a transistor. And when you tune up the transistor to a given frequency and wavelength to which our ears cannot be tuned, and then alone you can perceive that music. So until that becomes an object of your own perception or knowledge, it is a matter of faith. And therefore, in those matters where the object is not an immediate object of our perception, then we accept it on faith, and that faith will enable that indirect knowledge to be transformed into direct knowledge. Suppose it was possible for us to train our ears in such a manner that you can listen to that music. Suppose it was possible. Some yoga practices were there. That's how the yoga is. Yoga is nothing but communion with God. And you perform certain practices and you'll be able to experience God. Now it's all faith that after doing that it will all happen. And if you don't have trust, then you won't do that. Even medicine is all faith. When you are ill and you go to a doctor and he gives you it's all based on faith. That taking that medication, that you will be cured. You have to only actually do it, see it to believe it, but then we accept it on faith. So, in short, we require faith in those matters which are not objects of our immediate or direct knowledge, but in which we have trust that today or tomorrow they will become the object of our knowledge. And so, Vedas and all the scriptural matters, this faith or Shraddha is always required. Sarveshu Vedokta Anushthaneshu Shraddhaloho eva Shraddhavata eva Adhikaritvad ityartha. In all Anusthana or performance of any rituals or anything that is all meditations and everything requires faith. Even prayer requires faith, isn't it? You pray to God and hope that your prayers will be answered. Also requires faith. So prayer also requires faith. Every spiritual practice is going to require faith because you are praying to God who is also accepted on faith. And that God is benevolent, that He answers the prayers. All of this is a matter of faith until it becomes a matter of our own immediate knowledge. When we discover it in our own life that yes, God is benevolent, that He answers the prayers, and that until that becomes my own knowledge or experience, whatever you want to call it, until then it is a matter of faith. In short, if one is faith or the Shraddha, then Paroksha Jnanam or indirect knowledge can take place. The only obstacle to taking place of the indirect knowledge of Paroksha Jnanam is only lack of Shraddha. And that's what is said in the next verse, in verse 25. Etavada Paroksha Jnane Kimayatam. You had all this discussion on Shraddha, etc. So what relevance does this discussion have with reference to Paroksha Jnanam or indirect knowledge of Brahman which we are discussing? And that is said in the verse 25. Sakridaptopadeshena Paroksha Jnanamudbhaved Paroksha Jnanamudbhaved Vishnumurti Namimam Samapekshade Namimam Samapekshade. Sakrit aptopadeshena paroksha jnanam udbhaved. It says when there is Shraddha or the faith is there, faith, astikya buddhi, Shankaracharya describes or defines, explains Shraddha as astikya buddhi. Asti iti buddhi is called Shraddha. Asti it is. Astikya buddhi, the scriptures are valid. That God is. And that the teacher, what the teacher says is in keeping with what the scriptures reveal. This acceptance is called Shraddha. That's Astikya Buddhi. And that opens up our mind, which gets tuned up to the teacher and the scriptures. The Shraddha, or the trust, the implicit trust, is that which enables to tune up ourselves with the teacher and through the teacher with the scriptures. Just as we tune up the transistor to that broadcasting station with a wavelength and frequency, and so also what is it that enables us to tune ourselves up with the scriptures and the teacher? Is Shraddha. And when that is there, the mind is ready. Sakritaptopadeshena paroksha jnanam udbhaved. Paroksha jnanam or indirect knowledge udbhaved can take place sakrit aptopadeshena, even by one's teaching. Apta means the one who is learned, or one who is wise, or one who is knowledgeable in that particular subject. Whether it is upasana meditation, or whether it is brahmajnanam, or whether it is karma or the rituals. So when the upadesha or the teaching instruction is given by apta, the one who is versed in that particular field of knowledge, then sakrit upadesha matrena, even by one's teaching or one instruction, paroksha jnanam udbhavet. Paroksha jnanam or indirect knowledge would take place even by one instruction from apta or from the one who is learned or who has the valid knowledge. For example, Vishnu Murti Padesho hi na vimam samapekshate. For example, to say that this is Vishnu and he has Shraddha, he accepts it. So the one who has Shraddha or the faith accepts, yes, this is Vishnu. Yes, this is Dakshinamurti, this is that. Oh, there is a cross, crucifixion, fine. I have a trust in that. These days it seems in India, Mary has become more popular than even Christ, So there was an article someplace. People worship her because she seems to be granting all kinds of wishes of the devotees, And after all, what do people want from religion, from anywhere? Is to get a relief from their pain and suffering. And so they go and worship Mary, and their prayers are answered. And so more than even Christ, it seems, Mary has become more popular. Anyway, it's a matter of faith again. In a place like India, all you require is 5 people to go to one place, and then you have a whole crowd, You just 5 people say. For example, there are people who worship trees and plants also, thinking there are some spirits and what it is. So, in villages in particular. So all you need to do is go to a particular tree and tie one cloth there and a few strings around that stem of the tree. Then somebody passes by and says, hey, somebody is worshipping this tree, there was something here. He will also start that. And then soon you'll find there is a, so all of this is based on what we call Shraddha or the faith. And therefore, when the faith is there, it does not require any time or any effort on the part of the listener to understand what the teacher says. As far as then to actually see that God is a different matter. But to meditate on God with the indirect knowledge that God is omniscient, omnipotent, or He has 4 arms and He wields this kind of weapons, all of this, Sakrit Upadesha Matrena, by one Upadesha of the teaching also, this Paroksha Jnanam takes place. It doesn't require Mimamsa or a great deal of inquiry or a great deal of deliberation is not required, then Paroksha Jnanam can take place. So what is the obstacle to Aparoksha Jnanam? Is absence of vichara. So understand this, obstacle to Paroksha Jnanam or indirect knowledge is only absence of Shraddha. If Shraddha is there, then Paroksha Jnanam or indirect knowledge can take place. But Aparoksha Jnanam, immediate knowledge, does not take place unless there is a further element called vichara, or that discriminative intellect is there. That's a further requirement to transform that Paroksha Jnanam into Aparoksha Jnanam, the indirect knowledge to direct knowledge. Okay. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.